Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. We're going to be continuing our game dev project today. Made a little progress previously, and we're going to catch everybody up on what happened in between the last stream and this one, as well as get started, ideally, on our mapping logic. Hello there, Colin, and welcome. Hello to everybody that is watching, if you are. Welcome. Check in with kitties real quick. Molly has just jogged up to the across the keyboard camera there. I did adjust some of the cameras, so we do have a little bit of a better field of view on them. Hopefully that will work better, especially for the across the desk one and the table one. Better field of view. Well, hopefully, Colin, you'll like what you see now that you're back. There's Molly. And Ember's getting a snack. Gave him some extra food before it started. Sammy is hanging out in the play area. I see Sky creeping up beside her. Okay. Let's see here. Boop. So last time, we actually get the file open. We added loading for JSON files, as well as our game data files. We had JSON loading before we switched over to game data. Now we have both at once. Data folder. And we have this. Let's check here. Load. Okay. We have this because we have more complicated data structures for some things. So the driving force behind this was implementing world events instead of spawners. They're still probably going to spawn stuff to create entities and visuals. But they don't have to. We can have different sort of events happen at key moments. We'll see. But this particular one is recreating our spawn enemies logic. So we have the blob creature, which defines how it interacts with the world in general, its health, and I believe it has a damage trait already assigned to it. And then we add additional behaviors. This knockback really shouldn't be here, and we need to revisit how knockback works. But it moves to the player. It homes in on wherever the player is, and we have a spawn point for it. This world event is a entity spawner. That's why it's got the behaviors, why it's got those in there. World events can have a frequency in general. So this is once every 2 seconds we spawn one of these. And I believe, let's get to our world event entity spawn. By default, we have a count equal to 1. If we go in here and we set, we're gonna say count is 2. So it's every 2 seconds it will spawn 2 of them. They're going to move to the player. This whole data structure defines a single thing. none of these individual instances of world events are relevant to anything else. So this level has this series of events, and then we go through and we list them. So this part here, this little list deal here, is going to be something that we extend this over and over. So I could have another one of these. So this one's going to go for 5 seconds. So we'll do 1 a second for 5 seconds. Now we've got the same event here, but it's going to start on the 6th second. They go until the end of their... So it's once a second, and it will go from the start of the world until the 5th second. Up through the 5th second. This makes it so I can do things like that, and it will trigger exactly once. But for the first 5, then we're going to start at 6, and for the rest of the period, we're going to every second spawn 10 of them. And this should totally work, and I'm not going to feel embarrassed that I didn't do this test earlier. Now, the underpinning grid map is not visible currently. We are going to be kicking off making the new version of that soon. So we have the little bouncy balls going. We have about 1 a second are going to be appearing right there. And then on the 5th second, they start swarming. Let's extend out this to be about 10 seconds. And then on the 11th second, we start swarming. I want to make it more apparent that it's happening. I do apologize for missing a couple of my normal stream times until this week and last week. Trying to get that wrangled. I do need to have a clock. And swarm. It's the 11th second it starts, but this is the pattern. This is what we're going to be doing. We can have different spawn points. We can have different numbers of them. We can have different behaviors set up. So that this creates a sequence of events. They don't even have to be sequential like this. I can overlap them. For sanity, you would sort them. And in the game, it does sort them just to make it a little easier. I can add some efficiency to the parsing logic in this list here, where when we are adding them or removing them, or I'm sorry, finishing them and then adding them, this is what enforces that it will trigger at least once, because when we are at or after the end time of it, we remove it at the start of the frame. If we are... and then we go through and say, any that should start now. So this will take them out of the active list if they're already active. This will put them in the active list if they're ready to go. But even if it's at 0, and we're just getting started, it's not in the active list, so we can't remove it. Then we put them in the active list. Then we iterate over the whole list. And we pass that message in. This is only if time passes. So anything in the active list is always going to get at least one pass when it comes to an amount of time passing. So this is good for one-off events as well. Okay, and we have our levels, which primarily have world event lists in them. But what we can do with this is say, like, okay, this is level 1. We load up the level 1 object, and then we start passing messages to it. And as a result of that, we will get those spawn events starting all of it. Good times. So that's our new structure. It has moved away. We don't have weapons wired up to it yet. Hey there, Schmuggums. Welcome. So we're going to try to get maps today. I don't want to keep going with the spawners just yet. We're going to leave weapons as they are because that's simultaneously it leverages a lot of the same logic that the levels do. But there's the added footwork of creating the entity. So the event list that results in the weapons will be constructed differently. We'll get there. Okay, so previously we were doing a shader-based renderer here, where we had a lot of there's a lot of footwork that goes on into loading the shader. Instead of that, instead of creating it the way we're still potentially going to create merged textures that we would use in the map renderer, but we're going to do it as a Godot tile map layer. This requires a little bit of footwork to get all of the pieces together. So we are going to add another new item to get going with our new map renderer. So new map tile renderer. Renderer is one of those words that's easy to start spelling, but it can be tricky to stop spelling. Because, you know, render-er. Say, you know, render-er. It's like banana. It's that repeated syllable over and over. Oh, we're just going to put Godot here. I don't need Godot in all of the projects, but I like to remove a lot of the default system ones because it's useful to use some of the Godot ones up front, but I only want to use the particular subset of system ones that I choose to control what kind of naming overlap. Godot has a lot of the same classes that some of the default system C# libraries do. And just deciding which one to use and where can be tricky. So it's be as consistent as possible so you don't run into weird conflicts. My example continues to be math F. So we have systems math capital F, which is pretty much identical to Godot's math lowercase f. But there are little subtle differences in a lot of these libraries that you want to be cautious of. And I just do a quick implement. No, okay. Well, I tried. We need set world map and update. World map probably gonna change. Let's close everything else. Save that. You open. We're going to get world map here. Okay, yeah. World map. There's some assertions with this that I don't know that I want to keep. Because a lot of this presupposes... Hello there, Toby. I do like my code spread out a little bit more. It helps me read it. I know some folks like keeping it as compacted as possible. But welcome, nonetheless, Toby. Welcome. I believe you are new to the channel. Welcome, I am newtmechanist. Amongst other things, amongst some gaming, I do a lot of words. I've been doing a lot of this game development project, largely on stream, but it has been getting outside of that as well. I often end up having to hide the screen if I go searching for documentation, Toby, to avoid blinding people with the default light mode. But I feel like we need to do something different than this. So I'm going to have set world map, but we're just going to hard code a little bit of it for now. Let's get those in there. Ba-doo, ba-doo. Some overrides. We're going to add a handle message. For those that haven't seen it before, we're working on a Vampire Survivors-like Bullet Heaven game with a particular gimmick. There's no world map right now because that's what we're working on right now. We're coming up with a different version of it. You spawn, weapons emit from you. Generally, enemies spawn in particular patterns and move towards you. Let's get that there. Our gimmick is for weapons, instead of having linear upgrades to say, hey, I'm going to make the iron ball level 2, instead we're going to get more complex upgrades than these. These are kind of atomic units at the moment. But I'm going to make it fire 3 times a second in a burst. We're going to make each of those split into 3, and we're going to make it orbit around the player. If you're familiar with games like Noida, that's what we're going for. On this channel, we used to play that extensively. Game engines... So making your own game engine does give you a great deal of control. But a big thing that they do will shortcut a lot of the things that you're going to do probably the same way that some of these engines are doing it. I think the trick is making sure that you pick the one that has the level of control that you want. I'm doing a 2D game, largely straightforward. I am doing a lot, and I'm using Godot because I liked what I saw as far as its capabilities. I'm not using Godot's editor for anything that I don't specifically need. So pretty much all of the footwork is happening in the background in this. If I use Godot things, I instantiate them in the C side as much as possible. This is only to create necessary structures when I need them. So I have a world state. I have... Where did I put that? Anything that I directly need to implement, I pop them in here so that I can say, use this one. For this map render, we're going to have to create a scene for it. That scene will pretty much entirely load a script. It's going to be an entity 2D because I need to have some of the drawing calls come in. But we're avoiding doing as much in Godot as possible because we can get better performance going this way. And that's a big factor in this. One of our principal targets is getting the game to run smoothly by default. Right now we have the frames per second uncapped up there. But to allow it to get out of control if you get the right permutations. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be moving very fast. The more optimization you do, the more time it takes you. My updates are tied to the physics loop. The physics loop goes 60 times a second currently. I have thought of unbinding that by making the physics update fully asynchronous, but I don't want to get too much into that. So currently, there are more than 2,000 world entities in play right now. Game entities like a blob, a bullet, that kind of thing. It amounts to 6,000 to 8,000 actual, like, we're rendering a sprite to the screen. We are processing all of that. Not sure what you're referring to there. I don't know a lot of the terminologies for some of the things, so can you give me a little more detail on instancing there, Toby? But this is effectively demonstrating a you win state. It's, if you ever get to this level of performance, you're unassailable. In fact, less than this is unassailable. I'm not sure, Toby. I'm not sure. We are constantly looking for ways to do those kind of optimizations to get this here. Yeah, I'm not sure if we're using that kind of model or if Godot does it on the underside. But perhaps that's something that I'm going to remember to look into so that we can tweak it further. Hello, Sherbet. Hello. The best we've gotten as far as frames per second was when we were using a purely shader-driven model for collision and for the rendering. But both of those created its own kind of overhead and limitations that we've stepped away from. That doesn't mean that we're not going to loop back to optimizations using things like compute shaders and more for rendering. So it's a cost, but in order to make the sprites easier to maintain, their outlines are part of the default shader. But yeah, we're trying to account for this, so little optimizations, things we can find like that are always useful. I don't expect people to know about coding, let alone game development, encoding, or any sort of advanced graphics coming in here, but I always appreciate hearing about stuff. Okie dokie. So we need to get this little guy rolling here. That's right. That's right. That's what we were going to do. We go into our map render and we're going to add our public apply message. Window message. 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 Game message. Message. I really want to use an F instead of a G in message, and I don't know why. Replies. New game message reply. Then we'll do our thing right there. Okay. For the most part, we're not going to have to do a lot in this function, but I want to get the shell there. Since most of our stuff does require that. Actually, this is the parent class, so we can just do that, but we'll get this one in there as the shell. Okay. Now we need to start setting up the individual pieces here. Part of that is going to be getting the parent node inside of it. Map render extends a node 2D, so that should actually be fine. Okay. I like to be as descriptive as possible. This is entirely solo, so a lot of what I'm doing, a lot of this structure lives in my head in whatever documentation I come up with. So being wordy where I can helps me remember. Otherwise, I'll forget. Okay, so we need to put our nodes in during our ready. Is ready. And that's where we're going to add our tile maps. Ah, okay. Yeah, it do be like that. I've had some folks mention that, like, oh, you know, I would do the Godot interface in C++, and it's, oh, I don't wanna. We did start this project using Godot's native script, the GD script. We get better performance here. Fire Archer, we're making a Vampire Survivor style game. So lots of enemies swarm you, you fire bullets at them. It is, I'm not fond of GD script. I'm not fond of the formatting that it uses. It's also not natively strongly typed. You have to... There's like a secondary scripting part that's used to strongly type things. And pretty much every example, even in C# examples, people love to use variables and objects. And I want to be discreet. I don't want... If I do the wrong thing, I want the build to fail. All right. So we need to build tile map layers, which means we need to build tile sets, which means we're going to need texture atlases. Tile map layers are a relatively complicated doodad. Again, we have a shader-based map renderer that we could use. It's okay. It does largely what I want it to, but the problem is that the way it ends up having to work is that you render a lot of it at once. I have logic to make that as efficient as we can, but we have to give it data in a format that is a hassle to render. We could do some pre-compilation for that, but I want to see if we can get reasonable results with just the tile map layers, because those are going to be very easy to interact with in the code. If we don't get reasonable performance with it, we're going to fall back to our shader-based version and clean up the shader-based version, because it's rusting a little bit. Okay. So we're going to add our layer. So we are going to take a... Oh. What? Godot oh. Because I'm bad at typing. Okay, so tile map layer, we need to add one of those. I don't know what Godot is using in the background for all of its texture footwork. The shader version does load the tile atlas onto the GPU. We actually stitch all of the specified elements of the tile, the stage rendering tile map, together into one master atlas and hand it over in that way. And then the GPU use the atlas there. In general, our pattern with this is we're going to try to do something, and if that something doesn't give us the sort of performance that we want, we're going to try to be clever. And that's where things like, hey, collision is kind of slow, can we do better? And there was a period where we just did a brute force collision check on the GPU. And that was super fast, but writing the algorithms for brute force collisions, including getting the data for the collision shapes of all of the things to the GPU, led to very specific problems. So we're avoiding that. We're just using Godot's. It's kind of expensive comparatively, so we're doing as much back-end tuning as we can to mitigate that. It's that juggling scenario is, this structure is not, it does not have the speed that we would like, but it's easier to maintain to avoid issues. That kind of stuff. Like there's an object caching structure that we've had to build to deal with collisions and all of that, such that we don't invoke some of the slowdowns that can happen if you interact directly with Godot stuff. So we need that. We can interact with this as far as it being a node 2D. This is another thing to be aware of. This is kind of a stream of consciousness and learn along kind of thing. This is my first major project in C#. I've done professionally, I've done some coding in Java. Academically, I've done programming in C++ and a lot of other languages. I admire the power of C++, and I admire the programming patterns and behaviors that you learn if you want to work with C++ to any extent. But I would not wish working in C++ when you don't have to on anyone, since that is an issue. That's another thing that we're looking to control very carefully, Toby, is Again, any reference to Godot objects. Anytime we have to manipulate Godot or we have to deal with the node tree, that can get real expensive really fast. So there's trickery in the background to minimize that. Which is why we're doing all of this in C#, because if you do it in the script side, you're losing a lot of that. All right, let's just... Here, let's just start pulling the trigger. This will not be sufficient for the time being, but... Okay, now one of the times that we need to deal with the Godot side... Where are we putting you? It's not an entity render, it's a map render. It is a tile-based map render. We are going to add a scene. Default to node 2D. We are going to attach the script to it. Load that, which puts us over here. Then we're going to go into our resource and we're going to find our map render there. And we're going to say use this one instead. Have I ever tried non-object oriented programming patterns? I mean... there's a limit of how much we can coherently accomplish if we're dealing with this kind of pattern. It's going to depend on what you're getting at. I mean, again, academically, as I was learning to program in childhood as well as in academic settings, I started in the purely functional era, like when object-oriented was, as far as the public view, really kicking off. So a lot of the initial learnings were purely functional patterns, and then branching into object-oriented as far as containing the data accordingly. I don't know. It would depend on what I were trying to accomplish as to whether I would want to try a purely flow-based pattern. Though I suspect you may be referring to a very particular pattern that is after my immediate time. Added a child there, we can load it in, so let's go into our game flow. Where did I put you? There's our core, there's our screens, services. It's got to be hiding around here somewhere. Ah, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Game. This is our overall flow where we prime the pump here. So we're going to add our map renderer. And during our physics tick, we'll just call update. That does nothing right now. I don't know. I've never really read up on that pattern, but I probably should. Okay, well, we have nothing in place there for the time being, but it doesn't crash on impact, so I've at least remembered the pattern that I want. Gotta step away real quick. I will be right back. And we're back. Functions and structures. I mean, I could. I don't know. I don't know what it would really win us in this pattern. Well, in our overall objective here. We're not doing anything that would necessarily need a custom engine. Anyhow. Hello there, Enright. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. It's going to be a bit of a slower day as far as our coding because I didn't do the kind of advanced setup and reading. Yeah, Toby, I feel like I've heard procedural programming mentioned enough that I should do some reading on it. Rebuild it all in Rust. What was... There are a couple of channels that I see like shorts and videos from periodically, and a running gag is we should rebuild the entire application in Rust. I don't see why we should do that. Oh, hey there, Starry Night. Welcome. Almost didn't see the greeting. Sorry about that, but hello. Yeah. But, I mean, a big part of this, if I start another project, there's nothing that says I would stick with C# or I would stick with Godot. Part of this project is, hey, I want to do a big project in C#. I kind of liked the language when I encountered it. So it's like, hey, maybe I'll write the project in something different next time. Maybe I will decide I want to do massive overkill and I will write everything in like Unreal Engine and shaders just because. 9 to 5 rebuilding things in Rust. A lot of my professional experience in programming was figuring out what the prior, 7 layers of programmers meant to do with an existing data structure and desperately trying to get whatever the project managers were trying to force through to work in a manner that doesn't detonate on impact. Oh, okay, so we're adding a tile map layer. If we want to add a tile map layer, in reality, what we need is a tile set. We're going to just hard code which textures we use for the time being. Interesting, Fire Archer, Roller Coaster Tycoon, right in assembly. The game that inspires our weapon system is a game called Noida. If you're familiar with it. Aside from the gameplay aspect of the custom chain, micro program chain of modifiers that make up the weaponry in Noida, which we are pulling from, one thing that Noida's famous for is the fact that it has a very custom game engine where every pixel presented in the world is a material that can interact with any adjacent pixels. It is bonkers that it can run as well as it does. Let's see here. I really wish my chat aggregator had scrolling. For some reason, it don't. Maybe it's a setting that I haven't noticed. There's a degree of power and nuance that you can get out of assembly. It's one step further, but it's the reason that I often say it's good to learn to program making use of low-level languages in that way, because you have to be a lot more deliberate about what you're doing. You don't just say, hey, I'm making a variable and I'm going to add them both together and we're going to pass it around in this fashion. It's, I need to put this in this area of memory, and I'm going to interact with it in this very particular way, and we're going to move along. It helps you learn thinking in programs, Do I necessarily want to do that anymore? No, but I fully recognize how valuable it was to my understanding and ability to program in general. Well, hopefully we won't have to switch platforms, but also one of the things I am trying to do with my structure is, it would have to be disentangled from Godot initially, but I like to write my structures such that the actual inner workings of it, the top end presentation layer, is divorced from the core inner workings. So for things like collision and rendering, I touch on Godot objects because that is the part of the system that handles it. Collision, you don't have to, just like I did the shading for that. But that's one of those markers, is I could do it outside of Godot if I need to, and adapt it to whatever we're doing. It would just be kind of a mess, right? All right. Okay, there's our tile set property. I did some preliminary reading on this, but again, today is going to be kind of a casual wing it day. But there was, okay, tile set. I kind of like Godot. It's bumpy in some spots, but I feel like it's easy enough to use that it's a good introductory platform. It has all of the... If you're not trying to do anything complicated, bells and whistles that you need for a lot of game types. But it allows you to do integrations, I think, smoothly. One of the things I didn't like about Unity was that the integration of C# at the time that I was using it was a couple of versions behind because they didn't update the monocompiler they use very frequently. And the way that you would load the libraries in and access them was personally clunky. Entirely possible, but that's initially why I didn't go with Unity. And then they put their foot right down their throats as far as PR. So I was like, hey, let's try Godot. And it's been pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And then I started doing more complicated things, and it's gotten fun and interesting. I've only blue screened on stream once, and once, and then technically twice because it was immediately after stream. That was largely because I torpedoed my GPU. And we have crashed once, but I blame my sound system for that one time. Let's make a tile set here, actually. Because I'm probably going to need to mess with it. Stop being helpful, Visual Studio. We're using Visual Studio Code for a while, but I'm kind of used to Visual Studio and its kind of flavor of IDE, and there are weird disparities in the way that Visual Studio Code works versus Visual Studio that I couldn't understand why they would do. Weird anachronisms in the way I code. I really like to have my variable declarations at the top. It's not necessary. And I don't always, but I find it useful for organizational purposes. But just as often, you're going to see them down here, so it's remnants of when I learned, the same way I underscore protected and private variables. Well, thank you. I do like to try to keep my code legible and organized and right. I just wish I tried to keep it documented. We'll totally do that once we're feature complete. Definitely. I've worked with programmers that were, let's see, Vim, and what's the other one? There's another text editor. But I remember one programmer trying to sell me on one of them as like, it's super cool. And yeah, maybe it was Emacs. I can't remember. There's one that I would tolerate because it was like Notepad. It was a text editor. The one that drove me up the wall was they showed it to me and they're like, oh, it's super cool. Look, I can edit this line and all I have to do is set which line I'm editing. And then I can copy that line into a buffer by using this text command. And I can switch my active line over to here. And I can use this command to copy my buffer into the line that I'm editing. And but I have a mouse. Can't I just highlight and copy paste? Ah, but this time you can use it on the console. But I'm sitting here in a GUI environment. Now, if you had to code in a console environment, if you are connected by terminal, then a powerful text editor like that is good. Because, I mean, I have to. But if I don't have to, I'm going full GUI. I mean, part of my education in programming also included C++ on Sun workstations, where we had to do the editing in the console. I didn't like that. Toby, I think it just largely comes down to getting comfortable with the tool set. If I had to use it, I would, learn to use it proficiently. But because I don't have to, I'm not gonna. Okay, we set that, we set the tile set, but really before we're actually going to be interacting heavily with the tile set, we can leave that there as far as setting it. All right. It's distinctly possible that it's just the way I reach for the I key is not serving me very well. But I don't know. I'm double tapping the I key. It might be that like some cat fluff has gotten into the switch, but I don't think it has. All right, let's see here. Should be our tile set source. So we need a tile set source, which is going to be where we set up all the visuals of it, and then the tile set is the indexed pattern of them. This is one of the places where I wish it was less convoluted. Because the tile map is really... It is very oriented in its form. And like the object composition to be used in the GUI. Like, it's built for this. I'm trying to use it because it will be convenient for the way tiles are presented. Godot's tile map is plenty good in that way because you can do all of the footwork. Unity does this as well. I'd guess that Unreal Engine has it. But things like if this square is next to this square and this square is a grass tile and that square is water tile, these are the tiles to actually use to make it look right, without having to go in and have really hard-coded sequences for it. I feel like my model is lagging. Yeah, there's little weird ticks there. All right, Toby, thanks for swinging through. Always interested to hear the perspective of somebody speaking of a more advanced set of patterns. And yeah, and right, you know, previously I liked what I was hearing from some of some of the things that Pirate Software would say, but boy, that guy flamed out, didn't he? All right, just a second here. We are going to vanish for a moment. Do. I acknowledge you, Ember. I do. Ember has climbed up on my headrest and is demanding attention. Do. All right, let's see here. I think that's working. Let me see here. In true VTuber fashion, the scuff is real. Okay. For those that aren't aware of how some of this works, I use the classic live 2D rendering software, VTube Studio. My translation between camera and program layer is I don't use I think it's VC Face is one of them that is a common one. I think that might be the common one. I don't use that one because its interface is drag and drop curve oriented, which is a bit of a hassle. I use one called Vitamins, which lets me use a scripting language to interpret between the camera variables and how I move. All of that said, though, VTube Studio chews resources to render the models. It is intensive. So I don't do things like run it on the same computer that I'm doing any sort of like gaming or anything like that, because it will eat GPU resources. Okay. Words and things. Okay. Ember is distracting me here. While I placate her. I'm having to reach up behind my head and give her ear scratches. All right, we have the brothers and Sammy on the bed. We have Sky on the tree. Sky and Molly on the tree. So, there we go. Hello, Ember. I know. Ember likes the canvas. That is a white plastic table, but there is a canvas drop cloth draped over it because Ember likes the feel of canvas. Yeah. So yeah, all 6 are accounted for at the moment. And there she goes. Hello, Laura. What are your thoughts on Stop Killing Games initiative? Okay, so my understanding of the spirit of the initiative is related to usually live service games. And what people want is the ability, like, once the end of life of the game has been reached, they want the ability to keep playing the game. And the bare minimum of that is remove the phone home. Can you set it up that when you're going to kill the game, cut its connection to the server, or alternately, give us the server code so that we can run it ourselves. That spirit, I think, is real good. Hey there, Lore. Welcome back from ad space. The industry pushback on it is very disingenuous. The industry is trying to present it as, oh, this will be a fantastic burden on us. They're asking us to keep the games running forever. They're asking us to support the game forever. Any number of things that aren't actually true. In the background, often what the there have been developers that have actually said, mask off, that, well, if they can keep playing the prior game, why would they buy the next one? Does your new game suck so much that it's not better than the last one? Like, I'm looking at you, Sims, where often the next game releases with a subset of the prior features, a graphical update, and then all of the same DLCs with a graphical update. You know, sometimes there are features added, but a lot of times at launch they don't have everything that the prior one had. So, let's say it's a live service game and they discontinue one and they put up the next one and say you should buy the next one, but I'm already fully invested in the prior one and it has everything I want. So sell me on the new one. What does the new one have that would draw me in? If that is sufficient, then great. If it isn't, why should I stop playing this game? And if the reason is that you flip a switch that says this game doesn't work anymore, well, that's kind of bad. It also extends into the digital licensing era of software. You don't own a copy of the game, you own a license to access a download of the game that we can revoke whenever we want. That's a model that I think should stop. Just full on stop. If your distribution platform is going away, then let me download a copy for the period up until the platform goes away that will still work after. Oh, but they're going to pirate it. They already do that. Those already exist. And statistically, if people can easily access their games, they won't pirate them. Like, if it's available at a reasonable price point such that a purchase can be made, people will purchase it. You know, LimeWire and Napster did not make the music industry go away. Okay, so we need our tile set. We're moving real slow today. Okay, so here's our tile set source that we need to add. Yeah, and right, I know, it's just... Sometimes I feel bad where I'm just staring at the screen. I mean, I do have... Just check here. I do have all the documentation for that open. I did mention that Godot has good documentation. It does. Finding which one you want? Okay, I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to be easy to find it, but It exists, and it is complete. Okay, so we have a tileset source. We're going to add a tileset source. What's that second param? I don't think I need that. Tileset source, why did you not present me with the option then? Why is my character a third of the screen? So people can see it. For collaborations, I use a smaller one, but boop. But hello, Wicked Lotus, nonetheless. Oh, and Drew is over there on the Twitch side. I missed that. No, wait, that's the tall format. Either way, hello, Drew. Where is that? Let me... Come here, multi-chat settings. Oh, that is definitely true for some people, Lore. That it's as long as there is a bouncy visual element on the lower half of the model, they're okay. Okay, is there an option to make it so I can scroll the multi-chat box? No, there isn't. Inexplicably, there isn't. Okay, whatever. What I'm speaking of is that I have a window open that aggregates my chat. I don't show that window because inexplicably Twitch doesn't like visible chat aggregated, but... If you have a fair amount of experience with those, then the if you have a fair amount of experience with Python, C++, Java, and JavaScript, you have the choice of every dev game engine that you want. For a bare bones visual novel, there are actually game engines that are entirely for that. So that's if you want to have, like, you know, character sprites over text boxes with backgrounds, kind of pure flow. There are game engines that are just for that. And if that's what you're going for, go for that. If you want something more robust, then I would start potentially with Game Maker, because that one is really good for simple, like, 2D stuff. And that would be like, if you want to do something special. I don't think that you necessarily need to get into Godot and Unity level, but that would be like the next step up if you're trying to do something even more special. I can't imagine that you would need Unreal Engine, like, at all. Schmuggum's over here. Let me see, are you on the same... Yeah, you're on the same platform. Okay. Unity would be more than enough, Wicked. Is that Ain or Kilo? I don't remember. I don't recognize your name, but welcome nonetheless. Is that an L or an I? I mean, it's probably an I, because generally YouTube likes to capitalize at the front, but I don't know that it's automatic. Anyway, Kilo, welcome. We'll use that, the secondary part of the name. Okay. If you require a constructor param, why you no tell me params? That is a cat cam, Wicked. So I have 6 cats. Currently, all 6 are visible. Hey there, Kebo. Welcome. I am still working on the game. That is what we're primarily up to right now. Still the same game. we have been on a journey. So let's see here. So in widescreen format, top center is Ember. She is right across from the keyboard. Despite how zoomed in the camera is, she is itty bitty. Upper left in the cat tree is Sky in the back. He is big and floofy. And in front, kind of squished up against the wall by him, is Molly. Then on the bed there, in the lower right is Sammy on the squishmallow. That is kind of her spot. Ember and Sky will sometimes be on that at night, but during the day, that's Sammy's spot. And then the brothers Mason and Sherbet, top to bottom there, are on the tan blanket. So the tan and white pair of cats are on the tan blanket, sitting next to each other, so it's hard to tell them apart. Zoom, but don't enhance. Definitely a bit of lag on my streaming box right now because I'm seeing ticks in my avatar. But you can see them there. Mason's a bit of a big lummox. Sherbet is super skittish. Sammy's a demanding little princess. I would say this game we're on the 143rd stream. So that would put us, I mean, months as far as streams. Many months as far as streams are concerned. Several months, several months of raw days. Laura, the one that I'm looking at is tile set source. It's not letting me make it directly. Is there a tile set source? Quit trying to be helpful, Studio. Atlas. Okay. Okay, so it's... Okay. Thanks for swinging through, Fire Archer. Good to meet ya. Okay. Do. We've got an atlas that we set up in our entity render. I do enjoy the music. I've tried a variety of music, and so far the one I like the best is this really mellow string and piano kind of stuff. It's very chill. And I use it regardless of what game we're playing. We started playing Hitman World of Assassination recently, and I feel like it matches our music choice very good. Very well. Lobbing screwdrivers to gentle piano music, you know. All right, let's look at our entity renderer real quick here. Real quick. Services, rendering, entity visual sprite, where we set up an atlas texture. I would respond, Ian, but is there a language barrier happening? Because, at least personally, some of the stuff seems a bit gibberish there. Okay. There's got to be a set somewhere in here. Maybe we're just creating tiles directly, but... Ah, okay. Yeah, text just... Or at least speech to text can be weird. I'm remarkably impressed that Zentreya gets away with that as well as she does. The speech to text to speech system that she's had in place for a while still messes up periodically, but it's not constantly. All right, let's see. Set the texture and then have to make one tile before you pass it over to the tile set and that into the tile map layer. Okay, so there's got to be a texture. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so the tile set atlas is very akin to just a raw texture atlas. Okay. So we need... We need a texture for this. So we need to be able to get a texture. If we have a texture wrapper for it, then we're already set. Okay, we have map background and textures. Map data and map would create one. Map data. Okay, okay. Yeah. In the past, I worked with doctors who really, really, really loved speech to text. And one of the programs was Dragon Naturally Speaking. and that one had a protracted period of training that you had to do on it so that it would recognize your voice. And it would still mess up. They were very salty about that. Pictures, map background. It is... Okay, we have a texture wrapper here, which is in map data. The texture's name is map background. Okay. It's equal to texture wrapper. Texture wrapper is equal to really need to figure out how I'm double tapping the eye. Catalog dot get texture, and we're just going to call it map background directly. We shouldn't do that. We should have ways of getting these. We should also have... I really want to have logic that I can run in advance to build a lot of this stuff. Maybe set up like some sort of super nested JSON file that can be pre-built so that the runtime doesn't have to do a lot of this. But for now, it is what it is. Which is telling me that their bizarre trend of September is approaching. Maybe I'll have to have some sort of longer streams than normal. Commit to the hype. Tile. We would need to set up the atlas in that regard. But this is part of the atlas. Set tile. Size. Okay, the tile set has a tile size. So that is our squares or hexes. We know in advance, because we're hard loading this, we're saying it's 16 by 16. So we're going to get our wrapper first. And because we have the wrapper, we can do dot frame width height do that. Set the tile set. So we want to get our Atlas source set up here. And then the region is generally the whole area in the texture that contains the subset. We'll have to do some experiments with that sizing lore. I'll probably end up what are you? You're a vector 2i. Okay. So I believe the region size is primarily for defining a subset of an actual atlas texture. So an atlas texture is usually a composite of a series of them. So if I have, let's say I have a tile set for a desert set, and I have a tile set for a forest. If I'm defining, if I have those, I could have them as individual textures, but it's more efficient if I glue them together, whether when I'm rendering them, like when I'm drawing them in Sprite, or in like a pre or a at runtime logic, if I stitch them together so I'm loading one big texture instead of a bunch of little ones. Then the region would be drawing a box around the actual portion of the atlas that I'm going to use for that particular tile set atlas source. Wicked, why am I using C# instead of C++? Engines like Godot and Unity tend to have built-in compilers for interacting with an outside language. So Godot being able to actually build the project and run the project. I'm sorry, like Unity has its own mono compiler. If you use something other than the languages that it directly supports, then what you end up with is you end up having to build that bridge yourself. Hey there, fella. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the broadcast. We are in the midst of bumbling through an implementation of in code of tile map. And I've mentioned it before, Lotus, but I think C++ is an excellent language to learn some early programming in, as far as learning programming principles, how to break things down, how to learn how to interact with stuff in a ordered, careful manner. But as far as programming in it, I like to avoid that. I'm actually going to get a little bit of a custom theme made, and I'm trying to make sure that it has the same spirit of this music. That very mellow stuff. But fellow, we are making a game in Godot. Godot 4.4 using C#. Not sure if it's what you're referring to, Ian. One of the things I deal with a lot is carpal tunnel, or at least a very similar repetitive stress like pain behavior. So I'm always very careful about the kind of keyboard that I have and how I'm interacting with it. Because between playing a lot of video games in my youth and getting into a desk-centric, keyboard-centric career path, I have experienced times when an entire arm is largely incapacitated by nerve pain as a result. So I'm very cognizant of doing things like exercises. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but my general statement stays. Region size. Oh. Well, that seems pretty redundant. Vector to I tile size is equal to that. Doop-de-doo. We'll see how much we have to fiddle with this. Tile set, we're going to set our tile size. Set dot. Set tile. Now that was Atlas source. Set a tile. Create a tile. So which part of the atlas? Which is 0, 0, because it's the only one that exists in this one, and we're hard coding it for now. So we have a tile set, which we are now going to set its tile set source. Tile. Did we put that somewhere else already? course. There we go. Okay. It's such a mess. Layer.set time. We're just blundering through tile map layer implementation. Folks, don't feel like you have to talk about the code or the game. It's if you have other things that you want to talk about, then feel free. We have plenty of time to chat. Okay. We have get cells. Which atlas, which coordinates within the atlas. But that's going to be the tile in the atlas, right? Well, let's find out. Sat cell. Say 0, 0. Since this thing is being added at 0, 0, this should be down and right from the red dot. Set. Okay, so this is so all this song and dance we're doing with tile sets, what I might end up having to do is come up with logic for creating atlases for sprites and atlases for tile map that are not all handled in here. Because it's kind of a mess. I do have places where I try to write down the intent and write as far as the comments, because what follows gets into like code sorcery territory where it's unclear what I'm up to. Vector 2i. It's another 0, 0. And we're not going to pass in an alternative tile. And we're going to run this, and it's going to work first time. It did. It's itty bitty because it's not scaled up. So the main character here is a 32 by 32 sprite. Most of the other things are 16 by 16s. That sprite right there, the tile, is actually 16 by 16. But everything else is scaled up to a factor of 3 so that we get this nice zoomed in view, this nice classic chunky pixel view. So if we go into our tile map layer when we create it and scale is equal to services dot, what is it called? Oh, I have a name for it. Scaling factor. Startup resource dot scaling factor. This is something that would be passed in normally. Like, I want, whenever I'm setting up these things, that they'll have variables that I will load into them during their initialization, so that I want to minimize this, where I say services dot, and I want to move them into constructor injection, or into the constructor, so that it has a service injection feel, which will make regression testing better. Regression testing and unit testing being something that will totally happen later. Will definitely happen later. We run it again. There we go. And it looks like we're good as far as the sprite itself. You can see the upper right light border and the lower left dark border. Yeah, dependency injection. So Godot doesn't, I don't think Godot has a pattern for that. And in general, C#'s interface for that is focused on a web model that Godot doesn't sync with. So I have created a sort of abomination that serves the same purpose. And I'd like to drift closer to the spirit of the regular purpose, so that if I find a way to actually do it, great. If not, then I'll just set it up myself. I know you've mentioned that there's a way to do dependency injection in the object creation there, Tass. I need to research that, because if I can get that set up in the startup resource so I don't have to have those big complicated constructors, then that's what we want to do. Okay. Let's just do this again. And again. You know, there's this trend for small form factor keyboards, often referred to now, I guess, as 10 keyless. But I like my numpad. Numpad good. Hey, Sharpshooter, why did you almost quit YouTube? Okay. Be-doo. Okay, yes, it is functional. Hooray. You can actually see here the player sprite being 32 by 32 because they can stand in the middle of a 4 texture marker. One thing we can see here, the blobs currently do not hurt the player because they don't have the inflict harm behavior set on them. But if you look how many things are on the screen right now, let's... There. Here's 6 projectiles firing each second. So that's kind of what Vampire Survivors would already be doing. There's a lot going on in the screen right now. Let's make them a little more complicated. Sharpshooter, my general way of dealing with toxic people that have shown up in my channels and on my channel comments and in my streams is judicious use of the ban buttons. So this is already decent performance for what we want to actually have happen. If we do another factor of 3 here, we're going to get into mostly out of control territory. This doesn't account for damage numbers, but this is the player is winning. Sharpshooter, that is Mason, Sherbet, and Sammy. Mason and Sherbet are laying next to each other on the tan blanket, and Sammy is in the lower right. So this is 300 objects in rapid succession. The yarn ball's moving in a relatively complicated fashion. Let's make them really complicated. So we're still getting frames per second. We are going to be optimizing this for pretty much the entirety of this project. Everything we do needs more and more optimization. But we have about 300 things existing in any given frame. The little twitching that's happening is because of the explosions. Hey there, Ryzen. Welcome. Let's get the explosions out of there. That will probably lower the amount of stress. It will mean the blobs converge very quickly. So without the explosions happening, you can see the frames per second shoots back up, even if we make the motion very complicated. That's a good idea for a chat command, Tess. A name those cats, or name all of the cats and descriptions thereof. Should be straightforward. We just need... For one, I need to figure out the new interface for StreamerBot. They went from a very Windows 98 era, like hardline outlined box kind of thing, over to a much more modern look, which very different, but looks a little friendlier. We'll see. All of my alerts and whatnot are driven by StreamerBot. Now, I think there are a couple of lingering things with like Nightbot, but yeah, this is with a lot of things being emitted at once and a lot of movement going on. So this is 3 to the 4th. That's like 81 a second plus 1 explosion, where it orbits the player, moves in a snake pattern, then moves in a zigzag pattern, then moves in a loop-de-loop. So there's a very, very erratic motion going on. We're going to greatly multiply the number of things. This number going to go up. So at this point, we have a lot of things. This is more than should be expected to be on the screen at any given time. These multipliers, I want to minimize these. We want intriguing motion patterns in secondary effects. So we don't want it going loop-de-loops. We want it, or in orbits arbitrarily. That should be intrinsic to the weapon. Like alone, but we want more complicated patterns. But clearly with how low it's getting at about 300 or so, we need to get a little bit more going on. Okay, this is a very brutal hard-coded pattern for getting the tile map in there. Next up is thinking of how we can abstract this into our data files. How can I parlay a texture into an atlas and potentially stitch them so that there are multiple atlases set up how we want them, as well as a pattern for how to connect them. So we might do a little sprite art in a moment so that we can see how that would behave. We'll get two tile atlases put together for that. What you'll generally end up with tile atlases is one great big one that has things like the square tiles in their permutations, as well as bigger objects like a tree kind of stuff. So that you can, plonk down a tree in the field. Whether that's a colliding object or how you would handle that, that's an entirely separate process. Let's see how that plays out. So let's go into... We're still going to go and do map data as our stuff here. Where did I put that? Huh. I think I might actually not have had an A sprite for that. Huh. Okay, quick break, then we resume. Be right back. If you like what you're seeing and would like to see more, folks, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. It helps the channel grow. But in any event, be back in a couple of minutes. And we're back. Okay, so we need an A-sprite file for this. So, where am I keeping that? Hey, there's an update to A-sprite. I'm not losing frames there. Task manager. Oh, wow. Okay, where is the biggest cost coming from? Huh. No, I'm just chewing resources. Okay. Oof. I was mentioning that things like VTube Studio and whatnot chew up a lot of resources, and right now the CPU on the computer is running at the aggregation of the CPU is running at about 74%. GPU seems fine. I'm just looking because I'm still seeing the model twitch now and again. Though it might just be the fact that OBS runs at a lower frames per second, but I don't know. Are you guys seeing the periodic hitches between frames? It bothers me. That, and we're gonna load you and file. PNG. We're gonna do an A-sprite file, and a button. Okay, so we have a single tile here. We are going to get a little fancy at the moment. Take our sprite. We are going to change our canvas size, and we're going to initially go 96 by 96. Which isn't right. It should actually be 48 by 48, but we need this much space for now anyhow. Okay, so we're going to take you, and we're going to use... Now I have to remember all the A-sprite hotkeys. Okay, so base tile. We're going to move you over here for now. No, escape. Added benefit, Krita's hotkeys are completely disparate from A-sprites. Just to make it that much harder. Like M in A-sprite is masking tool. Or, marquee tool. But this thing, where you select regions, hello sky. In Krita, it's mirror canvas, so it flips it, horizontally, left, right kind of thing. For A-sprite, pressing escape removes the region. So I paint a region. This is what I want to mess with. In Krita, it's Control-Shift-A. It's very different. Anyhow, okay. Yep. I acknowledge you, Sky. I do. I do, baby. Okay, so we're going to take you, and we're going to move a copy of you here. So then we're going to take this, and we're going to take an 8x8 region of this, and we're going to move you up here. Up here. contending with lovey fluff ball on my mouse hand here. Yep, I do acknowledge you, sir. I do. And we're going to take this across there, run you across there, take you and line tool across here and that and fill. And then we're just going to by 8, and we're going to take the same thing here. Hello, sir. He has come to sit with me. And same thing here. Get a nice little 8x8. We'll take our line tool here to here. Dot there. Dot here. Here. Looked about right. Not right on this side, though. Yep. I am art. Why am I doing this? We'll see in a moment. I think this will be good enough for the grid spacing. No, that's not quite right. I don't like that it has that central one there. There's a better way to do this, but like I can probably choose a tool that has this pattern going for it. Oh, tricky. How we make work. The actual central corner, but because there is an offset. All right, we'll just do it this way for now. Okay, then our next one to be this. And we are going to take half of it here. Paste. Half of it here. If you're curious, Laura, I'm doing what I was telling you about as far as setting up sprite tile adjacency selection. How it decides to make a sprite look based on what tiles are next to it. Events. That. You and you and you and you. Then to emphasize that this is slightly different, we are going to do the same thing here. Replicate the same pattern. What now? By 8. Where am I off one? Here. Yeah. That's why. There we go. Wait, what? I could use this one again, but if you look, it's slightly different. It's got those little pips in the corner. Okay, and then we're going to take you as the basis. You here. And we need to set up a little bit of a difference here. I'm doing all of these individually because I want it to be very apparent which tile is showing up where. that each variation will be quite clear when it appears. So, and then we're going to take this, we have you like that. So, done. This. That. Then we will nope. And then that's one by itself. We're going to chop these just a little bit so they blend a little nicer. Show you what I'm up to in a moment here. As well as the Y of what I'm up to. Here, see if that goes here. We're making it so that the joins on the tiles don't overlap. This is largely because it will bother me if I don't do this, but okay. So this creates a 1 pixel border that won't conflict with other ones necessarily. So that we know this is one that if it's up in the corner here, it's adjacent to a filled in center. So we can't have this. We need to have this. Fill like that. Line tool, chop So this is a relatively classic set of tiles for a tile grid. So I have, what if a tile is adjacent to a tile on every side? This is what it looks like. What if this tile is adjacent to a tile on every side except the left 3? It looks like this. What if this tile is in the center of a cross? That kind of thing. So this is the default tile. Switch cameras here since we're missing a cat. And these represent the other configurations that a tile can be in. And we are going to, through sorcery, make it so that all of these exist when I load a tile set. That this will be the presupposition that this tile set is a thing and that they are in this layout. As a PNG, which should export it in the same spot because everything worked. Hooray! So this is our actual tile atlas that we're going to be dealing with. We're going to keep this open because I need to know, I need to look at this to reference where the tiles are in its layout. So we're going to do a whole bunch of this now. So we're going, it is a 6x6. So a 0 through 5. This is going to create 36 line items. So we're going to, or you're squirmy, Sky. You're being very squirmy. Ember was approaching to say like, oh, I'd like to sit on your lap, but then or sit on your shoulder, but she saw that she would have to potentially touch Sky on her way through, and she's like, ah, no. So, if we look, she is going to be in a resentment loaf here. She's at least, she is not looking at me, but she's not totally facing away, so it's not in a maximum resentment loaf. But this is, I wanted attention from you, but Sky was in the way loaf. Oh, nested for loop. I is equal to 0. I is less than 6. I plus. Same thing. Put it inside nested, and this is J and J. J. You create tile, and its source is I, J, X, Y. Okay. Now, getting this in here, we can set some tiles accordingly, where we can say, which one, where we're putting it, and then the third one is the coordinates in the atlas, this guy. So we could do this just across the top and say 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0. And that did not work. That's weird. Yep. Then we're creating a bunch of tiles using X and Y. Add our source, our tile set. Those 3, and we're saying which atlas coordinates, which tile in the tile set we're using. But why do? Why it not do? Because this is very different. It shouldn't have... Like, we're referencing a very different set here. And we're defining the tile size and the region size. Let's move you up here. Shouldn't matter. Maybe it do, but... Because it's weird that it behaves this way at all. Add the parody arcade room in the main layer yet with games like Boomerman, and you start out in a small space to use bombs without dying. Min exploit where you try to mine a block. A off-brand creeper explodes next to you, and Greed Witch where you're a witch entering a gold mine. The first time you fire your wand, everything keeps exploding. Oh. What are you doing, Sky? Hello, Lunar. Okay, so we're creating tiles in tileset source. In tileset source, we're referencing the 0th source. And we're saying where we're putting the tile. Here. And we're saying which atlas tile we're dealing with. But none of the tiles we're seeing, this tile does not coincide with the sprite that's showing. Like, that exists in the lower right set only. That's right here. That should be 4-4. Yeah, that's 4-4. But maybe it's the other way around because I'm creating the tiles in a different order. creating tile here. I feel like then create tile is iterating in a different way, that these tiles are identified in a different sequence. This is in tile map layer. And we're looking at set cell. You can see navigation can be set in a tile map layer, such that it is how Godot's navigation logic would move through those tiles if they represented a path. Interesting. We'll revisit that. Okay, it's 4.4, but there's slightly newer than 4.4. I believe there's 4.5 that we might be on now. Oh, okay. Any of these set to -1 in sequence would erase the cell. Tile coordinates that bugs me here. The fact that this one is showing up as the first one is the weird element. No, actually. Oh, but why? Why is that one the last one? Or why is that the first one that appears? Hello, Sky. Hello. He is blocking camera. Because he wants a hug. Yes. Oh. He is real clingy when he wants direct attention. Are you... What? Well, if you're gonna kick at me, I'm not gonna. He'll bite and kick if he doesn't, if you're not doing it right. I mean, all of them will, but he gets pretty feisty about exactly how. He's also not one of my tummy rub cats. Molly and Mason, for the most part, are the two that will accept that. With Molly, it's not her favorite thing, but she'll tolerate it. Pretty much all of the others are no, don't like. So there's something we're missing here as far as programmatically adding the tile. We've got the texture, we've got the region size within it, which is the this essentially defines how big can a tile be within this. And here we are creating is this more? Nope. Let's put a break here. I want to see if we can get some of the internal structure visible. Okay, so our tile set source should have a bunch of tiles created now. Where does it hide those? Have a local texture here. I don't see where tile set sources create tiles happen. So maybe you know this, Lord. I'm trying to create tiles. And I've tried a couple as far as I'm iterating over the texture. I know where in the texture these should be. So I have a 6x6 as far as the tile size. Each of these are 16 by 16. I'm trying to go in and define a tile for each of them. There are going to be some dead tiles, but I don't care. This has a very specific pattern. So I want to just get these in currently. But somehow, this is the only one that's coming through. Oh, wait. I know why. Derp. One moment. Now you'll see the name of this file is map background test tiles, which is not the name of this. In particular, this. Let's... Before we get into the question I was going to ask, let's load the correct file. Okay, not quite, but we're getting there. That is the first tile. That is the 0,0 tile. Now, why didn't any of the other ones load? Because I should be messing with the X here. One and two, which in theory should be this tile and this tile. But perhaps, here are our create calls. Actually, let me remove that. That might be part of our problem, but I was briefly testing the wrong file with absolute coordinates. There we go. We got it. Okay. So there are these tiles manually added. Now, the fiddlier part is going to be getting the logic for which one of these tiles to set and how to set them. Which might be an entirely different entity than what we're dealing with. Create tile has a difference of how it uses its parameters. No, wait. Set cell. Hello, Yopi. Welcome. We're working on our map logic. We have started the ball rolling on converting our map structure into a tile map. So we have our little 16 by 16 tiles being generated here. The next step needs to be to create rules that say, if I place this kind of tile down and it is adjacent to another kind of the same tile, which one of all of these do I use? These are placed in a way to demonstrate the adjacency within a 3x3 block. So this one is demonstrating if this kind of tile is surrounded by the same kind of tile, we do this one in the middle. If it's in the corner of a set here. Yes, Minesweeper logic. This is how many of the same type are adjacent to it. Should make it look like this. So somewhere we need to be able to set that. And I'm wondering if we've got different source types for that purpose. Is it terrain that we're dealing with? Tile set? Tile set. Physics. Navigation logic. So this is also Godot's tutorials. You can see referenced here what I'm going to be working on. And that's like these three sequential ones right here of this is the left side, the middle, and the right side. Setting up our tile set. That's not what we're really looking for. It's not a scene, which would have particles. Not painting. Yeah, we're not manually painting. Stop. Ugh. So the example of like manually interacting with it is under a pattern that is, I am making a map directly in the GUI of Godot, and that map will be a scene. If I want to load that level, I'm loading the scene. I don't want to do it that way. Tile patterns, yeah, no. Terrains. Okay, here we go. One terrain set in a terrain within its terrain set. Oh boy. This is also how you can get increasingly complicated to have things like this is a grass tile. This is a grass tile that is adjacent to a dirt tile, adjacent to a sand tile. For the time being, our tiles are going to be a single entity in and of itself, but if we want to get this operating cleanly, we're going to have to handle adjacency in a robust fashion. I've found some documentation, or it's some examples, I should say, of ways to do this. We're doing the simple thing first here. So this is a connection mode where tiles are connected to surrounding tiles. Path is when you are drawing the line and saying the entire brush stroke that I do is the point of calculation. That's not what I want. I want the surrounding one. So we need terrain sets for auto tiling. Okay, the tile set will have a terrain resource. And then within it, we make a terrain. And then when we're messing with the tile set, we need to have a terrain set ID and terrain ID for the tile. Okay, so let's look at our tile set. Need a terrain set mode. Part of the terrains is setting the tiling. So we're indicating that within this thing, this is how they combine with each other. But I need to set a terrain. How to add terrain. So this is where we're going in and we're saying, if this one is next to this one, this is the one that it's supposed to look like. Oh, I don't have one of these. Ugh. We'll deal with that. I don't have column logic. Yeah. You're thinking the game mechanics terrain. This is Godot's tile painting logic. That it's saying one of these next to one of these looks like this. So for its terrain, it means the visual terrain. And how it will be painted. Yeah, we can see some of the things I don't have here. So this is indicating a central one by all of them have these little pips in the corner when they're surrounded. This is one that's in an L shape, like an open upper right and upper left and lower left corners are open, but the other ones are touched. There's a lot more to it. So my my example tile set will certainly not be the end case. So what is thing? A tile set has terrain sets, which we have a terrain set, and then within the terrain set we add terrains. Oof. And then each of these has markers of which, within that terrain, what does it mean to look around it? So, for example, in this is a terrain. And then I would go in and indicate this one is here, is used if these are filled in and these aren't. So I would set this tile to have these are vacant, these are filled, because it is this kind of terrain. It is this steel panel terrain. And this is what it looks like if those ones are filled in with the same terrain. There is going to be wiggle like crazy in this. So how to set a terrain? What is add terrain? Add terrain set first. What? At the given position to position in the array. Why? Okay. This is for specifying which ID it's going to have. So we are going to first add terrain set. We are going to try 1. Hopefully what it is in the background is actually like a dictionary. Okay, it did not explode. Okay. Add terrain to 1. And so this is terrain set 1. And this is going to be terrain 1. Okay. Next. We were joking about it, but it is the code turducken, you know? Terrain peering bits section, which becomes visible in the middle column. Okay. Set terrain. I'm going to do terrain set mode here as well. That needs to be for a terrain set that exists. So for terrain set, we are going to do I'll set to terrain set mode dot corners and sides. Dot set terrain how do we interact with a terrain here? And how do we do the rest of it? Tile set. Set. Okay. Inclusion, not custom data, not navigation. It's not a source. We're not moving any of it around. That's purely a visual GUI element. It is the... I'm generally referring to the particular pattern of, in order to make this, I need to put one of these in it. In order to make this, I need to put that in that. It's this level, it's these layers of creation that we're going through back to back to back. Okay. Setting cell, but that's not what we're actually doing. We're going to create tiles. But maybe that's not... Is it a tile? Tile size, which is really what we want. It's not the tile there. You can also have animated tiles and tiles that are scenes. So you would have a tile that is defined as a Godot scene, which we're going to avoid. But that would let you use things like Godot particle effects and whatnot as part of it. On a pattern. Setting the mode, that's not what we want. Physics, source level, no. Okay. So this is forcing them to a particular, like, how they were entered kind of thing. But that's somewhere in this process, we should be able to define how the tile set handles the terrain. The tile set. We are creating the individual tiles. Now we should be able to say in this somewhere, do I have to make it in a particular format? Modes and tools, saving, handling tile connections automatically using terrains. Map layer node, go to the inspector and create a new tile set within the tile, a new terrain set. Okay, we've created a terrain set. We're adding a terrain to it. So we have to mess with the tile somehow. So it's within the tile set. There should be a way to specify terrain set and terrain for it. To indicate within this terrain, that's how this works. Where do we do that? That is on a tile. So we have to be able to edit the tile's properties here. Offset, tile size. That is entirely that is the tile map level. So there's got to be something in here, in tile set, that we can manipulate. I mean, in theory, in the source, it could be there. It's connected. That property, that's not even remotely. Animations. Nope. So it's not in the source. So one would rightly assume that it is in some way in the tile set. That's for editing the tile set. I really don't want to have to create tile sets on the Godot side, because I don't know how I will gracefully get them into configurations. Shape, the offset. Yeah, which type we're using. When I say it's not graceful, I mean it means that I can't load textures in directly. I think that'll be where we go. All right, let's go to our test bed. Going to add a child node. We're going to take tile map layer. And we need a source for it. So we have tiles. Where are you hiding? Tile set. New tile set. Open the tile set. It's a square. It's 16 by 16. It's stacked. Tile set. We are going to add one. It's going to be an atlas. We're going to load in our data file, our textures, our map. We're going to load you in. Okay, we have created our tiles here. We select that one and we can go into terrains. It's going to be, okay, our tile set, our terrain sets. We're going to add one. It's going to match corners and sides. We're going to add a terrain. It's going to be terrain 0. So terrain set 0, terrain there. And then, so we've selected a tile, and now our terrain peering bits here are its surroundings. So can I do, nope. Weird. Why is, okay, well, oh, okay, I can drag into open space. Okay, so it is closed on the right in the down. So it's hard to see, but there is a faint brown kind of marker following almost that curve on the tile. And I can select this one, and I could say it's 0 in 0, and it is connected on the left side and the right side like that. Now I have a bar going across. So I would repeat that for all of these. This one is fine by itself. This one is going to be, just to get more of the examples, it would be right, left, top, and bottom. So I have a little cross there. And then this one would be the same way. Just going to go in and we're going to put these here. But it's how to mess with a tile in this fashion. Like, this, herein lies the problem, you know? So this is in the tile, so it is a tile source, and I am messing with, so I have atlas coordinates. So this is in the tile set. And it's part of terrains. But that's, no, okay, this is the tile. So how do I get a tile in Godot? Inside the code. So, given the way it works in Godot, it would be assumed to be here. This is where I'm creating tile sets. I'm setting how they're rendered. I'm adding an actual terrain to it. So I'm in my tile set. I've created a terrain set within it. How it works, here's the... so created one set here. Then I made a terrain inside of it. It is terrain 0. We're using brown. Let's use this really bright red color so you can see it a little better. Right here. So I'm painting these lines. But how do I get to these? Because it would be very easy for me to set terrain's peering bit here. So I need to get to the terrain. All right, real quickly here. If I've set them in code. Okay. This might be something that requires me to interact with the Godot side. Ick. The difficulty with editing it on the Godot side is getting a reference to the object that I want. I can put it in the resource as a variable, but that requires a resource for every single, like, I need a Godot object for every single tile set I set up. They become effectively hard-coded things. That's horrible. Why? This implies a way in code to set the peering bits, because this is useless. This does nothing. Like, the ability to add these does nothing for me if I can't set the peering bits. So why would these functions even exist without a corresponding way to mess with the tiles? The fact that the tiles are created up here also implies that it might live here. But we have no interactions with that. Animations aren't useful for me. Hey. Back in we go. No, I don't want to watch a YouTube video. And I want code examples, Godot. There are no code examples for this. Editing it in the tile set. We're selecting a tile, and we are editing that terrain's peering bits on that tile. Everything around this indicates that I am getting a tile in order to do it. So here is where we create a tile in the source. So use it. Peering bit. Property terrains peering bit / right side. These are properties of a thing somewhere. But of what thing? That's what's missing here is this is a thing, and we have terrains peering bit / right side. But how to get to this? Because this whole doodad is the tile. We can't do a tile set source. We're just going to do that because I just want to see its properties. Looks like it's just a housing. It doesn't have any unique values in generic tile set source. How do I access a tile? Like a tile set tile. How do I access you? Because in the editor, I access you by clicking that. Is there a tiles collection called base tiles? This also doesn't return anything. Calling that is the equivalent of the operator of when I load this in where I select the tiles. So right here. So these are properties on the tile set that we've configured. We've got the texture. The clicking of these or dragging these is the same as a create tile call. Then when I am selecting an individual tile that exists, we can see our atlas coordinates changing. We have no animation. Some method for getting the tiles. Okay. Where does it live? Animations. Oh. No. That is if a tile exists here. So when I'm creating a tile, I can check that. Tile data? Maybe tile data. Okay. Tile data. Z dot. Well spotted, Laura. Oh, dizzy. Okay. Okay. Equal file set source dot get tile data, which is the atlas coordinates, which is should be this. Equal to that. And then there's going to be an ugly if-then statement here. I don't care. I'm 0, I think. Here. Okay. Ideally, this is an object reference, so here. And so this would toggle it, essentially. And this should also mean that I can OR them together. Okay. How do we do? List of long. This is super gross, but is new list of long. That. Be able to do this. We need you, right? Let's just do this the gross way for now. So let's see. Each X value needs its own entry. Five. That super gross what we're doing here. Then so for the most part, we need a corresponding one of these for Y for each of these. Yeah, super gross, but we're doing it this way for proof of concept. Brute force permutations. Okay, if it's 0, 0, then it is equal to... We're making something. Tile set, cell neighbor. No, these can't be ORed. Which means we need multiple calls to this per each of these. This is even grosser. Don't even know if it's safe to call this at this point in the function. Okay, so this is 0, 0. It is right. It is bottom and then bottom right. What does this mean? What is bottom right side? bottom right corner, bottom side, bottom left. Okay, those are incorrect values. Tile data. Source using tile maps. This is get tile tile set source for this. Oh, there it is. Gives me a tile data object. And in particular, we're looking at set terrain peering bit. The fact that this is 2, these are not meant to be ORed together. They're just a sequential enum. Bottom right side does not appear in the editor. So bottom side, bottom right corner, bottom left corner. So bottom, like from center, bottom left corner, upper left corner. There is no bottom right side. I don't know what strange world. But such is life for now. So this is bottom corner, and this is bottom side. Okay, we're going to leave all of these alone, and we're going to paint a square of this tile. So we're going to paint 4 of them. And so this will be 1, 0, and 0, 1. 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. Closer. Okay, but how do we choose which one to paint then? Because that was also not the... Oh, Atlas coordinates are here. So this is 0, 0, 1, 0. 0, 1, 1, 1. It's all the upper left corner, but that doesn't seem right. I wonder if I have to set them after, if I have to set their data after I have set it up. Oh, 1, 1, 1. Nope. Here again, and for 0, 0. Might be something else that I need to do for this, but okay, it's drawing. It's always drawing this one. And it makes sense for the first one, but not for the subsequent ones. Because I'm telling it draw 0, 0, but perhaps... if I don't pass in Atlas coordinates, where I'm putting it, which source I'm drawing it from. Let's just try, we're gonna... Oh. // paste that in, and we're just going to say that. Hey, that not do. I mean, it does say all of them need to be filled, otherwise that it will be erased. Okay. Is there a different method for this? I think I might need to use this one. Explicitly what it's requesting. Yeah. It, no. One, one, one. Cells, 0 and 0. Nope. You up here. We're sciencing. Nope. Setting it for terrain 0. We're setting up terrain set 0 with terrain 0. Saying corners inside for that tile set. Tile map layers tile set to have terrains set up with all required terrain combinations. Otherwise, it may produce unexpected results. Okay. This one has... We're going to find each of them that we care about for this, it should be the corners. So x is equal to 2 and y is 0. Needs left side, bottom left, and bottom side. And then y2, x0. Needs right side, top side, and top right. And then x2, y2. Needs its left side, its top left, its top side, 0, y2, top right, yeah. Let's add just do 0, 0. Just as purging it when that happens. And setting them subsequently doesn't help us. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Check a couple of things real quick here. Yeah. I think I need to do a little more research into this. We'll see if I can get that before tomorrow and the next day here. If we can't, well, we have a couple of games we can try, and I'll hopefully figure out if I'm actually getting that stutter that I'm seeing there. But all right. Whoop. I hope you had a good time today, everyone. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff. It helps the channel grow. If you'd like to consider financially supporting the channel, you can do so through platform-specific means, as well as things like Patreon and Coffee. Links are in the link tree in my bio and video descriptions. And with all that said, I hope the rest of your day is good, and I'll see you next time.